Hi, everyone. We're going to talk digital writing today, and we have a lot of kind of tools and tips and tricks to share with you. The link to our slides is bit.ly/digwriteiu14, and so we keep those slides up and available to you after the session is over, and this will also be available on demand for you. So let's go through and kind of talk about what we're going to explore in this session. Really, I like to start with the why a lot of the time in my sessions, because I think that digital writing has been something that we have had the opportunity to involve our kids in for quite a long time. And now we're in the situation where we're kind of forced to do it. So yeah, the time is now to explore some of these tools. We'll start with looking at some Google tools because a lot of people are familiar with those, and then talk about planning and preparation and some prompts. And then some other tools of the trade, things like Google Chrome extensions and other digital writing tools. And then talk about feedback, ways to give feedback in these spaces, and publishing. So I'm a little bit biased in this area just because I've been writing for a long time, like since I was a little girl, and journals, I'd fill them up. And so I enjoy writing, which I know not all of our students do. But when blogging platforms came around, I jumped on that opportunity about a decade ago to talk about what I was learning through writing. And so I built up my blog in that regard, and I turn to it all the time. And it really changed the way that I learned and that I communicated. And I think that a lot of the professional organizations, places like the National Writing Project and the associations that develop standards for speaking and writing and listening and communication, they understand that communication is so different now than it has been. And what we can do to help shape our writers in this way is just to help them understand the platform, because digital writing isn't just writing in a digital space. The students really have to understand the nuances of the platforms, especially when it comes to social media. And I don't have a whole lot in here to share from a social media perspective, but we've all been in Facebook forums where we can flat out see that adults have no idea how to communicate appropriately through writing. They can't get their ideas across in a written platform in a digital space. And so my big push when I've been sharing this with educators is that we have the opportunity to help kids understand that now, and we have the tools to help develop them as writers in that space. So even, back in when NCTE was talking about the importance of 21st century environments, knowing that we have to help kids be proficient and fluent with technology, and we have to help them manage and make sense of all of the multiple streams of information that are coming in. So looking at and creating and evaluating multimedia texts, because there's very few instances now where our kids are just in front of a one type of media text, except for perhaps maybe school. So now we are in this different space, not by choice, a lot of us, but we're here. So we can explore a lot of these tools and build up these opportunities for kids to create and write in digital spaces. So another thing I like to always share is this point that Bill Ferreter, who's a middle school teacher in North Carolina, he's been talking about this. This is actually version 3 of his for a long time. What do we want students to do with technology? Well, right now we're putting the pieces together and trying to figure that out. But the wrong answers to this question are, we want them to create a Flipgrid or add to a Flipgrid. Why are they doing that? What is the point of using that tool? We don't want kids to learn to code. Coding for everyone. That's the route through which they are learning these grander things. So the right answers of what we want kids to do with technology are, we want them to join conversations and find their voice and drive change and make a difference and discover new questions worth answering. Those are the bigger picture types of things that when we allow kids to write and publish and share using some of the digital tools, these types of things can come to life. So just very simply, as you're transitioning to an online learning experience from an ELA, or this is frankly applicable to writing across the content areas. If you're here today and you're not an ELA or writing teacher, that is perfectly fine. You're going to find things that you can use in your content area too. But just some reminders about Google Docs, because it's an easy place to start. And even in the primary grade, students can successfully publish their work with Google Docs. Of course, you can have multiple collaborators. So if you get to the point where you're comfortable having students co-write or co-publish, or you bring in peer editing, I think that's really a valuable thing to do. You can set customized sharing permissions. This is something that you might not realize when you're just building it out and sharing with kids. But if you build a document and you decide to share it, there is a space here where, if you go to advanced, in a school account, let me see, Danny, you can set a customized expiration date for that. So right here, after I've shared with Danny, there is a little clock. And so I can click here and I can allow access to expire on a certain date and time. Now, this is applicable for a number of different reasons. It might be something if you're dealing with a hard deadline for kids who are older, who are growing accustomed to publishing deadlines. If you're sharing with a parent or something, or if you're a special education teacher and you're sharing data with a other team of teachers and you only want to give them access for 7 days to kind of lock it down, or if you're a principal and you're sharing things, this has a number of options here. But don't forget too, you can also prevent other editors from changing access and disable options to download or print as well. So if she tries to open that in 31 days, she will not be able to. Of course, the commenting, the chat, the suggested edits. I'm going to add this here because I didn't put it in there. Use the plus sign to target comments to users. So what that looks like is you can assign, this is why I love Google Slides, because it just on the fly, just do this. So I have Danny on this document now. So if we are writing together and it is a great fun time, I can go ahead and I can say, right now I don't really have a title. So I can click and I can click add comment. And now in this space, if I click plus and then her name, now I have this option where I can assign this comment to her. Please help us think of a clever title for this. Now, what that means is that she is going to get notified. So if you are working with kids and sometimes they just ignore your comments, which happens, it's not you. What you can do is you can target that comment at them and then they will get notified. And now the only person who can mark that as complete is Danielle. And in her Google Drive, she'll actually see a little number next to the file name, and it'll say 1 or 2 or 3, however many action items she has waiting for her. So I think that's a very clever addition there. They have, of course, all of the text editing features, the version history, which I love. And we're going to talk about the Explorer tool. So in particular, this document does not have a whole big lot of version history. But let me also share it with one of my other accounts. So I can go in at gtrainer.com. I'm going to add that person too. And I'm going to flag that comment as well. Need more content here. So I'm going to say, hey, person, +, Lynn Hilt at I'm going to assign it, and they're going to be responsible for marking it done. This is my other account. So when I go to shared with me, oh, I flew right by that. When I go to shared with me now, you can see that little 1 next to my demo document. So that tells me I have 1 follow-up item waiting for me. And here's what it would look like to the student or to the colleague you're pairing with, assigned to me. I didn't actually write a comment. Now I'm the only one. I could hide this discussion, but Danny is responsible for marking it as done. So I will get on this tomorrow. All right, reply. So that's how that works. Now I'm going to go in and I'm going to add some more content. I wish I was feeling like more of a creative writer for you today, but I am not. Now, when I go to version history, which has been updated if you've not been in here recently, I can see the version history of the document. And what I love about this now is that it's been color coded. So it's color coded by user. At the start, at the origin of the document, it was 1011 and this account created it. And if I even use this expand down arrow, these are all of the changes. This is the life of the document. You can see she fixed that grammatical error, spelling error going through. And now the purple user added this content. So it's really a pretty cool option. Sometimes people worry about kids working together and things getting deleted. You can always go back in time and you can restore that version of the document. You can also go back in time and you can save versions of it. Like you could print to a PDF. This is great for tracking progress through a writing project, where on day 1, if they were here, and then after a peer edit or after a teacher edit, they ended up here with so much more. You can save those versions and then you can compare them and have a nice writing conference with the student. Look what you've done. How did you improve this? What resources did you use to do that? And you can also name them. So this would be like first draft. This would be after peer edit. This would be, hopefully not, but final version. And so you can see all of that. So I love that, that breakdown of version history. Then, of course, the Explore tool. If you've not seen that yet in one of my sessions, I love the Explore tool. Tools, Explore, pops up on this side here. And right now it scanned my document for content, and it's suggesting some things that I might want, but I don't. I'm going to write about, of course, if you've been at any of my other sessions, I always choose giraffe habitat for some reason. So let's say this piece is about, it's a research paper on giraffes. On this first web results, I can scroll down and I can find snippets of websites that may help me in my research. And I always say to kids, this isn't the end all be all of your research. You need to go beyond here. So let's say I trust this source from Britannica.com. I trust that as being worthy. Okay, so here's some information. I'm going to go down and I'm going to just grab this info. Now, your students would definitely write it in their own words, but for the sake of time, I'm going to copy and paste. Okay. And so now this is my content, and I actually used it from a source that was listed in my Explore tool. And if you notice, I'm going to put my cursor at the end of my content where I need to add a resource, and built in to the Explore tool is a Cite as Footnote option. So I can click here, it inserts a footnote, and at the bottom of my page, it inserts a citation. Now, depending on your grade level and what you teach and what your expectations are for citations, the student might need to go in here and edit it, and it's fully editable. So it's a good place to start. You can decide how you want the citations to be shown. If you want them to be MLA, APA, or, well, they did have that there, or Chicago. So that is a good time. Web results. I don't know where that went to. And then for images, these are all copyright friendly. So you can choose them and you can find the actual source. It's almost always in the public domain or a Creative Commons licensed image. So you can feel confident that students will be maintaining copyright, respecting copyright when they're using that. So I'll click here. My insert button is like missing for some reason, so I'll just drag and drop it. And it also stamps it with the source, which is nice. Probably not going to put it in the middle of the words, but all right. So highly recommend the Explore tool. Here is what I was missing when I was zoomed in. Select citation format. So you can choose MLA, APA, or Chicago there. Okay. So just these little things that show up in Google Docs. Translation tools. You can translate entire documents with the translation tools. So tools, translate document. It's going to make a copy of your document, choose the language, and can I spell? Translate. It's going to make a copy of your entire document in Espanol. Now, this is amazing for a number of reasons. For writing, of course, but also for you to communicate with parents. We're dealing with schools that have, you know, tens of and 20s and 30s of different languages that our families are speaking. And you could take advantage of that. And then you can put this in Class Dojo. You could copy and paste it. You can put it in emails that you're sending. So you definitely want to check that out. So Nicole says, how do we learn all these tips and tricks? So admittedly, I've been using Docs for quite some time. I am a Google certified trainer. So I did go through the level 1, level 2, and the certification courses, although most of it, honestly, Nicole, is self-taught. Like when I'm using it, I figure it out. I follow the blogs, the Google for Education blog, because they already put out like brand new things. Like for instance, Google Sites now has templates. And like, I wouldn't know that unless I follow them on Twitter or like go into the education blog and get the updates. But because I'm a trainer, I get this network of people who are like always on top of things. And I get a Google group where I can go in and learn all the new updates and things. So that is a really good benefit of being a trainer, is that you become part of that network group and you get kind of access to the info as it comes through. So that's a good question. I really enjoyed my experience becoming a trainer. Level 1 and level 2, really easy to, let me show you where you can do that. Teacher certification, Google EDU. Everything, all the training and things are free. You can just go through the training portal, where fundamentals is level 1 and level 2 is advanced. And then as you're learning to become a Google certified trainer, you can start the training here. Now we, at the IU, we're going to run, well, we were hoping to run Google boot camps over the summer. And we actually might still do that digitally. We're not sure yet, virtually. Because we know there's a lot of people who are interested in this. And what's helpful about attending a boot camp is that you could definitely go through this and learn everything you needed to know, but it's helpful to have somebody with you, like highlighting the key points, someone who's taken the exams, and just getting you through that. So I'm hoping we're still going to do that. Yeah, so here is it's Teacher Center, Google for Education Teacher Center, and then I just went to /training. So there's that link. So yeah, so I'll definitely we'll try to keep that on the schedule for summer PD for you guys. More Google Docs. You just can't go wrong with the simple stuff. So here, I'm actually going to change this title to an actual title. Now, my writing teachers, I beg of you, teach kids to use the preset styles in their documents. So when we first all started word processing, we'd do things like have a title and we'd tell kids to make it 14-point font and like bold it. And for section headings, we'd maybe make it bold and a little bit bigger. But these styles are built in to help format a document in a professional way. You can still change the font of the style and things like that. But the reason why styles are so important is because it works with tools. The styles work with tools that are built in. So now this is a heading. So I'm going to do heading 1. So you can see it's a little bit smaller than my title. One of the documents features that works directly with title is the document outline. That was kind of hanging out for you on the left-hand side, and you might not have ever noticed it. But if you click there, you now have an outline. And for those of you who teach outlining skills and note-taking skills, this is a wonderful resource because it pre-creates it's interactive. So if I click on title, it's going to go to the word title. If I click on giraffe habitat, it's going to scroll down to giraffe habitat. I use this when I design lengthy docs, like a syllabus for an online course I'm teaching, and it's like 37 pages long, or you might use it for a course syllabus, and you might use the headings for things like, you know, homework, projects, whatever your grading categories. Students might use it to develop a research project, title, section 1, this, section 2, this. They might use it to write a science lab report, you know, hypothesis, procedures, and everything can be set like that. The other thing that is useful when you're dealing with styles is using the table of contents. There are 2 types of table of contents you can insert. You can insert the first kind that has page numbers. So I only have one page. And you can constantly just refresh it. So if you add more content, like I'll just add some more content here. More content, giraffe eating. Really clever writing today. Another heading. Now when I refresh this, giraffe eating is on page 3. So that's one type of table of contents. And the other one is an interactive link where it's like little bookmarks to take you through the document. So this is great too for you organizationally. If you're trying to build out something for kids, maybe it's an online learning schedule or, you know, list of activities, the table of contents, it works with styles. Use your styles, okay? So I had those on the list. Voice typing, if you've not used that. Tools, voice typing for your students who are still becoming proficient keyboarders. Click this and it will start to dictate whatever you are saying, comma. You can teach them to speak punctuation, which is really fun, exclamation mark, because they kind of have to have it in their brain, comma, of how it should look like, exclamation mark, new space. New line, I meant. Okay, so that's pretty good. It did do a new line. And then it kind of underlines, like, is this what you wanted to say? And you can like think about it. And if you right click on anything, whatever you are saying, whatever. Did I mean that? Whatever. No, I don't think so, but maybe I did. So that is good times. That is good times. You can also choose your language, your input language. So maybe your learners want to dictate in Spanish and then they want to translate it and then they want to work through their translation work and they want to type it, the finished product in English or whatever the goal is for them. They can take advantage of the tools that way. Of course, there are exporting web publishing options to go through. You can download as PDF, you can download as a Word document if needed. And for Word, you can even publish as a an EPUB publication. If students are writing stories, they can send them to their Kindle and they can read it on there, which is pretty cool. So I did talk a lot about docs and I'm thinking, wow, how am I gonna get through all this? But we will. So I have more information here about the Explore tool. I have an example of a collaborative independent study handbook using Google Docs, and we have run sessions talking about HyperDocs before, and it is a way that you can organize learning and content for your students. My coffee is cold. This is what I need to have a mug for that has a lid. All right. So Google Slides is another place where your students can creatively write. I love it for digital storytelling. I love it for more graphic types of writing. This is an awesome template by Ryan O'Donnell. He created it in Slides. You can see he changed the page setup, which you can do in Slides. It doesn't have to look like a slide. He made all these cool kind of graphics around the outside, and then he made text boxes. He showed you how to do quotes and speeches and things like that. And he even has some layout ideas and some examples. So that would be a great idea to promote some creative writing with your kids. This is an example of I should find the link to that. I meant to link that. It's a choose your own adventure story. And based on what the reader chooses, it sends you to a different slide in the deck. And this is an example of an illustrated with images and also narrated story. So don't forget that you can bring in now with the tools voice narration. So nice. Voice narration for different stories. The way that works is with the insert menu and then audio. And we looked at this in a number of the sessions. I'm doing a slide session tomorrow, I think. Yeah. And so I'll go over that then. But it will pull any voice note or recorded audio from your drive, insert it into the slide, and it will just serve as like this little button that you can press. You can also choose to have it start playing automatically when the page is turned or when the slide is flipped. This is something I just recorded from a service called Vocaroo. Hey everyone, it's Lynn, and I needed I'll put that here. No account, free, you click, you record, and you download it. And then you bring it into Drive, and it's that easy. It was literally it takes you like 1 second to do. It just looks like this. It's super easy for kids too, because they don't have to sign into anything. Record. Hey, it's Lynn again, demoing Vocaroo. And then save and share, they can download. And that's what you have to do if you want to bring it into Slides, because you need to get it into your Drive. So wherever you saved it, you can just drag and drop it in, and then that's where your little voice recorder will be. This is great for giving directions on Slides too, for littles or for non-readers. And it's helpful for writing. You could even give peer feedback that way if you were going through their project, and leave a little audio. So that's good stuff there. All right. So planning and preparation of writing. How can we get kids excited about writing during this time? I'm a little bit sad. My son really got into writing when he was in class, just started really doing some fun things. He's 7, but I was really happy with the progress that he was making. I have an extra period in there. And since we've been home, he has like not been that excited about it. I can't imagine why. So just helping him think through his thoughts and continue organizing. There are lots of ways that you can take advantage of drawings tools in Slides, in Google Drawings. There are a number of templates that are available for all kinds of writing. Compare, contrast, narrative, story types of storyboards. everything that you might need, persuasive pieces. This is an entire presentation by someone who did a wonderful job preparing a lesson, Tina Sabatello, about text structures with Google Drawings. So talking through how to help kids learn things like cause and effect, problem and solution, and then giving these various diagramming tools to help kids learn them using Google Drawings, Google Slides, and everything is in here, which is kind of cool. So you can see how that all fits together. So I linked to that for you. Of course, you can always use something like Jamboard. If you've not seen that yet, it's a Google tool that you simply have this blank open space for students to write together or brainstorm together. They can insert shapes or they can draw their organizer. If they're doing like a web kind of situation, and then they probably do better than me. Then they can add text, they can add sticky notes. So, main character details. This is Jamboard. So this is collaborative. So what happens is you can share this. A teacher could create it. A teacher could import an image with a graphic organizer in the background, and kids could complete notes on top of it or write on top of it, which is pretty cool. So you can draw over top of images. You can make different backgrounds, like if you need graphing paper or dots or something for planning purposes. So that's a Jamboard. I talk about that in our creative writing or creative tools session. And then there are people that have created all of these cool templates, people like Eric Kurtz, who just does a great job sharing and producing these things that we can use in our classes. Whenever this decides to open up, you can see what they look like. But this is all kinds, like cycles, tree diagrams, fishbone diagrams, 9-circle web, and these are all in Google Drawings. So you could use them in drawings themselves, or you could use them in slides. And there's just all sorts of funness there for planning and preparation. Recently, Flippity added a randomizer. And if you've not used Flippity, we did a session on it, but basically this is designed by a Google Sheet. So you would input the who's, the what's, the when's, and the where's, and kids would click the random spinner and it will design some ideas for writing. So Luke Skywalker during a severe drought, tomorrow is in a laboratory. What happens next? So you can pick the who's, the what's, and even you can have kids design a randomizer and then give it to their friends or their classmates and see what happens. I know that there are kids who just say, I don't know what to write about. I don't have any ideas. So this might spark some ideas. So I put the randomizer in there for you. And I really do like the idea of using a note-taking service to jot down those moments when you think, yeah, this is a good idea for something that I could do. If you're not ready to get your kids into Google Keep, this might be something that you want to investigate to help you stay organized in this digital time, overly digital time. Keep is a Google service. You can download it as an app on your phone and it will sync with whatever is online. I just found these amazing headers for Google Keep that someone on Teachers Pay Teachers gave away as a freebie. And so you can organize this. Oh, I did that one. Did I do that one? Oh, I already did these. Okay. So you can set up Google Keep notes here. You can change the color. You can add labels. You can share them with peers. You can do all of these things. And what's nice about it is now Keep is synced with Google, a lot of the other Google products. So if I bring my doc back up, if you might not have noticed this, but on the sidebar, here are all of it's calendar, Keep, and tasks. So here are all of my items. And if at any point I want to take this keep note, I can click add to my document and it will push the whole thing into my document. So this was the only text I had in there, but it'll add the image, it'll add the website. If you saved a website, it'll save like all of your stuff, which is amazing. So Keep is really cool, and you can share it with your spouse for going to the grocery store or whatever it is that you need. Keep is really fun times. There are really great educators who have created and shared a number of digital writing prompts, visual prompts, video prompts, and John Spencer is one of those creators I would recommend that you follow on Twitter or follow his work, his blog. He created 100 writing prompts for middle school, some of which are certainly applicable elementary or high. That just happened to be the grade he taught, and also video writing prompts. They look something like this. And it's just like a very kind of interesting looking photo with a simple prompt to spark kids thinking. He does a lot of his own original illustrations. So, and you can add your information there if you want to get the downloaded ones. Create a soundtrack for your life. Explain what each song means to you. Has social media made our world better or worse? Now, this is even something that you could put in a class meeting at the start of it and then talk about it and just do like a soft opening that way, just like an interesting thing. These are video prompts. Should college athletes get paid? So they're all kind of different in terms of what they offer, creative writing or building more on your knowledge about something. And then I linked to some other examples here. The New York Times does a daily picture prompt. And some of these are definitely better for secondary learners, but some of them are appropriate for the littles. Like, what does this mean for you? It's amazing. The dinosaurs are coming out in full force now, just like the alligators. And I also wanted to share Donnie Pierce's work. He has shared generously the graphic organizers, templates, and slides that he uses with his learners. It would be appropriate for upper elementary or for middle school. And he's got all of this in one place on that Google site, so you can check that out. Additional tools to support writing and literacy. And if you've never been to one of my sessions before, obviously I jam-pack my slides full of stuff because I just hope there's one thing that is applicable to everybody in the room. So I apologize if that's overwhelming, but that is how, or that is why, one reason why we save them on demand. You can rewatch and pull out what you need. If you've not used Chrome extensions, those are the little tools that live in the top right-hand corner of your browser, and they serve a specific purpose in that they perform a job for you. And all of these in some way could support either your productivity as a teacher in a digital space or your students' work with writing, grammar. For example, Grammarly is an extension that will check your spelling and grammar in spaces where you type digitally. So it will work on things like Facebook. It will work in platforms like Gmail when you're sending an email. It does have a direct connection with Docs as well. And that's something you can check out. I've only ever used the free version of it. There are premium packages, but you could try it and see if you like it for yourself and if it might be something your kids could investigate. Now, for Chrome extensions, each one has its own terms of use and has its own privacy policies. But if your students are using Google accounts through school, your tech department can easily push out extensions that you find valuable for your class. A lot of these, again, might be more useful for you in this time, but there are accommodations and modification tools like Open Dyslexic to help students who might have that visual need to change the font. This is Rewordify, which is actually a website, not a Chrome extension, but you can copy and paste text into this box and it will change the complexity of the text. And so it will change words to simpler English. So here, if the words are the ravenous throng scampered toward the delectable viands which the chef had impeccably arranged on the table, it will change that to this. The very hungry crowd ran toward the delicious food. And you can keep clicking on them to make it simpler and simpler. And this is free. It just works right through this platform. I think there's probably a premium version, but I've only ever used the free version. These will change the way that content looks. Mercury Reader and Just Read. I actually, do I have Mercury Reader on here? I do. So let me go to like a website that you might be asking your kids to read from. And I mean, there's never anything good to read here. What you need to know about the coronavirus. Okay, so now, you know, if you send kids anywhere online to read, there's just stuff going on. There's like social buttons. And as a kid, I'm like, oh, I want to read this, and I want to read this, and I want to click here. So if you use something like Mercury Reader, what that can do is clean up your text. Now, I don't see any of that social stuff. I still see important content like images and graphics that go along with the information. I still have links to other resources that were in the writing, because we know hypertext writing is the greatest part about digital writing. But now I just have a very clean piece. And if I'm teaching high school and I want to now save this as a PDF and push it out, and they can do their annotating and their highlighting, I can do it that way. And there's another tool called Announceify that, let me go back to the actual article. Oh, man. Why the coronavirus is so confusing. Yes, please tell me that. So this has a big section header, but let me see here how this will work. So Announceify will clean up the page.
The pandemic doesn't have to be this confusing.
And watch this.
March 27th, as the U.S. topped 100.
So what it's doing is it blurs out what's not being read, and then it's dictating the first, goes paragraph by paragraph to help your kids focus. So if you're doing a reading and then you're doing a writing response to that reading,
March 27th, as the US
this could be a helpful tool.
Confirmed cases of COVID-19.
It does sound like a robot, but that's because I've been messing around with the options. You can change the, under text to speech, you can change the volume, the speed, the pitch, which voice you choose. So it doesn't have to sound like a robot. So I listed some things that you could play with here in the Chrome extension space. And one that I always recommend is Read and Write for Google Chrome. There is you can get as a teacher the premium version of this tool for free forever. And it is a toolbar that pops down in Microsoft Word, it pops down in Google Docs, it pops down on the web when you're reading, and it gives kids access to all of these tools to support their reading and writing. So there are things like text to speech. They can record their voice reading. There are highlighting tools. They can highlight content and then save all of the highlights in one place. Like if you're asking them to go through text and highlight the main idea or highlight supporting details in a different color, they can do that, and then they can collect it all. And there's even this thing called vocabulary list, which is pretty wild. Let me turn this on. Because let me get to a reading space. So if my kids are reading about this giraffe situation, and I'm going to find words that maybe they don't know, I'm going to turn on my extension and wait for my toolbar to pop up. There we go. And I'm going to highlight, I'm going to say to the kids, why don't you go ahead and highlight words that you don't know, that aren't familiar to you, that we might need to look at more closely as we're reading. Predator. It can be any color. I just pick different colors. Species. Okay, so there's 4 words that I don't know. Now I can collect those highlights, or I can do something awesome. I can create a vocabulary graphic organizer with one click. So it's building my list, and right now it's going to show you this vocabulary list. It generated this list from the words that I highlighted as the student. Or teachers, you can highlight words that you think will be tricky for your kids or vocabulary words you want them to learn. It inserts a meaning. It pulls in any symbols that relate from its picture dictionary that it has. And then there's a spot for notes. And this whole thing is editable in Google Docs, so you can go through and you can find, like, the military training exercise isn't the way that that was used in that context. So you can take out the definitions that don't apply, or you can have kids write them in their own words. And so you can manipulate this however you want. But I love that just with one click, you can get that tool. So that's Read and Write for Google Chrome. And if you don't have it, use the link that's on my slide at slide 22, because that will take you to the registration where you tell them you're a teacher so you can get the premium version. That can be pushed out to students as well. There is a cost for student subscriptions, but right now they can have it for the remainder of the school year for free for premium. And then if the students wouldn't pay, they would still have access to about half of these features. The read aloud, just they wouldn't have access to some of the extra stuff. So a couple more tools. Book Creator, if you're looking for a more creative space for kids to write. Book Creator is just a blank set of pages that students can add text, drawings, images, and narration to. They can write stories. You can write stories and share them with students. They're called books. This is one of their books that I downloaded to read. It's called the Book Creator Ideas for Kids. This is a finished product. So you can see, you can design the backgrounds different ways. This is like an activity. This has a prompt right in it. Take a photo of something you find beautiful. Here are little activities you can do with it, because all of these things are like, you can move them around. You're the teacher, words, words, words. So you can see how that works. Now there are, you could even see how this could be cross-curricular, because it's not just for writing. You can see how links are brought in. You can read a book and review it below. So how would you do your book review? Well, here's the plus sign. You can do something like add a recording. Record sound. 3, 2, 1. I really enjoyed this book. It was the best book I read all year. Then you can hear it. I really enjoyed this. And then it'll pop it in right there. So those types of things, this multimedia space, you can get a free Book Creator account. I do believe they're offering longer trial versions of their premium. The only difference with the premium versus the free is that you get more space for books. I think you get 40 books for your premium account versus 3 for a free account. So Book Creator is definitely fun if you want to check that out. And it's web-based now. It used to be just on an app, but now kids that use Chromebooks can use it as well. For more targeted practice of things like grammar and spelling, check out No Red Ink. They are offering free No Red Ink accounts for students and teachers during school closures, but it has some interactive practice exercises, tries to make the selections interesting for kids to read. You can assign numbers of different writing skills and everything you might need to just make grammar and editing and revising a little bit more fun. So that's No Red Ink. And Quill is something similar. They are, it's a library of activities that ask students to practice writing skills. They include little writing assessments, and from that, there's a diagnostic test built in. Quill will actually make recommendations and create unique writing exercises for students based on their diagnostic, which is a great thing to do especially right now, if you're trying to get a feel for, okay, where are my kids now that they've been out for a month? And it does sync with Google Classroom, so you can push out assignments that way. To wrap, giving your students feedback during this time is really important. And I know it's hard. I know teachers are grading and checking work nonstop as it's flying through the online spaces. I don't know why this isn't like, I want it to be full screen. But don't forget, in Google Classroom, you have this ability when students hand in their work to open the work through Google Classroom, and you get this sidebar to give feedback. It gives you a space where you can enter the grade. It gives you a portal for private comments just between you and the student. And if you've never clicked on this little guy right below it, this is the comment bank. You can add comments that you use regularly to that bank so that you can just copy and paste them into your feedback to kids so that it goes a little bit more smoothly for you during that time, just to kind of expedite the process. You can also now in Google Classroom attach rubrics to your assignments, and you can also turn on Originality Reports. And what that means for rubrics is that you can import rubrics that you already have used into the platform, or you can design brand new rubrics right within Google Classroom. The question about notifications for students in Google Classroom is this: if you don't return their work, they are not going to see any comments that you've left, and they're not going to see any sidebar comments. You have to return their work. And that is a big hang up that people are realizing now. If you don't return the doc, the kids can't see anything you've done to it. And so a lot of teachers in their workflow, when the work is handed in, the first thing they do is return it to the student, because that gives them ownership back. But it also gives you the ability to still go in and leave comments and give a grade. And so if that's one thing that people have been trying to figure out what the best workflow is to that. But even if you leave a sidebar comment, like teachers will say, my kids aren't seeing my comments. And that's because you are the owner of the doc, because once they hand it in with that turn it in button, they lose privileges over it. So they can't see any comments. So don't forget to return it. The originality reports are meant to support the student in making sure that the work they're handing in is the best version of their own work possible. It is not meant to be a gotcha for students. It's not meant to be a plagiarism catcher or like a punitive thing. It's meant to be a tool that a student can use to match up their work against work that's out there on the web. And you can read more about that here. I've never used it in my actual life with another user, so I'm not sure what it looks like, but they have it all broken down there for you. And I believe you're limited to like three uses of it per assignment. There are two options I'm going to share with you for leaving voice feedback on a document. So if you are an English teacher and you are grading and leaving feedback for hundreds of items a week, which I'm certain is the case, Kaizena and Moat are two options you have to voice comment inside students' work instead of type out all the comments. So the way that looks, here's a little example of a writing piece that I was doing. And Kaizena is an add-on. So you'll need to have permission from your Google administrators to install add-ons in your account. Some districts are fine with it, other ones are not. And this is my Kaizena portal. And I can go, I was like writing words. Do you see that? I was trying to use another one that didn't work. Okay, so writing bursts. And I can go ahead, this is like tracking things. There's a skill. I can add a lesson to, like, for my students. When I clicked aloud, that lesson that came up was a homophones lesson because I used the wrong aloud. So you can actually assign little mini lessons to your students as well, and it takes you out to different places on the web. Like, this is Learn Zillion. This is an open source kind of content, and now I can learn about homophones. Here is the voice option. So let me go here. Voice message starting. Oop, allow. Hey, I really like where you're going with this essay, but I do think that you need some more details about this and about that. So it's uploading. Hey, I really like where you're going with this essay, but so this sidebar, your students will need the add-on as well. This isn't something that every individual student would need K to 12, but again, if you're an English teacher, a writing teacher, you might want to approach your administration, even if you're thinking about next year, to get this pushed out. I just have the free version. Now, a new one that I heard about is Moat. And Moat is a Chrome extension, and it works in a number of different spaces. So I'm going to click regular Google comment, and now I get this little extra Moat button in my comment. So I can type my comment, but I can also Moat it, and you get 60 seconds. Could you tell us more about the county fair, comma, what it looked like and what it smelled like and all the things that were going on? Now, I'm used to saying punctuation when I type, which I don't need to do. So I'm going to click comment. It's transcribing it, and then they can listen to it. Could you tell us more about the county fair? So if you like the idea of text, in addition to recorded audio, Moat might be something you want to check out. Okay. So I know that we are running out of time, but as we talk about publishing, as you're thinking creatively about ways that kids can publish, I did want to put a plug in for blogging. Giving the kids a space of their own to publish their work and share their work is something that has really inspired a lot of writers that I've worked with over the years. If you're a Google for Education school and you teach students who are over 13 years old and your district has opened up Blogger, it's a really easy platform to get started. Also, EduBlogs, I highly recommend because they are very education focused and they are willing to support you in any of your student writing endeavors. And Weebly is also a free service that students have used for blogging as well. Blogger, again, is blogger.com. If, again, 13 plus, because it's not part of the G Suite core apps, it is an additional app outside of the core, but there are still terms of use that are appropriate for 13 years or older, and it's really easy to write and publish. Other publishing options, things like Adobe Spark, things like student blogging challenges through EduBlogs. These will all give you great ideas for publishing in unique ways. And, you know, from moving on from today, just take some time to dig through the content, find one tool or one platform you think your kids would enjoy, and really reimagine what writing can be now in this digital space and have a lot of fun. So I'm happy to take any questions that you have, and don't forget our bit.ly link to fill out your feedback form. And I want to say thanks for coming today. I'm going to stop the recording and then I'll turn it over to you guys for questions. So thank you.